Named entity recognition is a subtask of natural language processing, and they have letters that also describe it: NER for named entity recognition and NLP for natural language processing. So what I'll be showing you today is going to be finding entities in information on the web. And what we're going to be doing is having a subtle amount of web scraping, a little bit of parsing that information, and then everything else will be the natural language processing. What's nice is the last video I did was about part of speech, and part of speech directly connects into this next part, which is chunk. One of the main advantages of any chunk is its simplicity and ease of usage. It requires minimal configuration and can be easily configured into an existing NLP pipeline. The any chunk function uses a rule-based approach to named entity recognition, which means it uses a handwritten set of rules to identify named entities. The rule-based approach does have some limitations. However, despite the limitations, it still does an amazing job at finding entity names. It doesn't do the best job at figuring out, titles or product names, and that's all right, because what it offers is a simple way to get started, and that's what we're doing today. Ready? Let's get started. Open the GitHub link. Then try to find the part of speech entities Python. Let's open it up and zoom in. We'll work on this together. So we'll copy this. Great time. We'll copy that information and we'll open PyCharm. And I like to right click things, right click and open a new Python file and call this POS, and it's named entity recognition, NER.py. Okay, let's get started. We'll paste, Control V. Also, you can right click and paste. I'll scroll to the top and let's just go ahead and hit run. So hitting run can be interesting inside of this app. So it's Alt-Shift-F10. Also, you can click it. This menu should be popping up and you'll look for the script that you want to run. All right, now it's running and let's see what we can do here. So it's attempting to load something, and what we can do is create a new script from a Python file. We'll call this the NLTK installer. Yay. And we'll install that there. And we'll also import it. Very good. Let's run this again and see if we can get through. All right. And I just want to show what's happening here. So this error, and I just clicked run. So I have to select where I'm at. Now, if you do the drop down and you don't see the thing that you want to run inside of PyCharm, go back here, run again. And once you select it for the first time, then it'll be available inside the drop down on the top right. Yay. Top right. This there. Okay, cool. We've unzipped it. We've put it where we needed it to be. So if you ever wanted to play a little bit more, then hey, it's available. Let's go back, hit play again. We can find it. We've created two files as well. We've created part of speech counts, CSV, entity counts. So we'll just click between the two. We're going to be using requests. That's in order to simulate that we're a real user and request information, and we're actually returning some HTML, so we'll be using Beautiful Soup in order to parse it. Next, we are using import NLTK. You can see NLTK is used in a few places in the app here, but notice as you scroll to the bottom, we're no longer using it. So just in the beginning, we'll be using the part of speech tag feature, function, and we'll be using named entity, which is the any chunk function. Now this is new. We're adding this on top of the previous video. However, we'll go ahead and just go over part of speech too, because it's a part of the pipeline, the chain of events that need to happen for you to perform natural language processing and use any chunk. If you're finding any difficulty with these training tutorials that are related to NLP, please consider taking a Python bootcamp. I am not looking to do the basics of training in Python in these videos. These videos are intended for people who understand the basics of Python and have done the due diligence of getting through a couple hours of Python. So once you get past the base level of Python, you'll start to realize the things that I'm showing you in these videos are already built and already working using the fundamentals of Python. Python Bootcamp. All right. Python Bootcamp. What's this guy person? What are they talking about? There's going to be a link in the description of a Python notebook that will cover every aspect of the fundamentals of Python, that you'll need in order to understand the things that I'm showing you here that are coming from GitHub. You can literally copy and paste it, change one or two things, and it will just work. If you really want to learn the deeper layers of Python, please go to this GitHub. I created it for you. You're the right audience, and I want you to be able to learn the basics and the fundamentals of Python prior to getting a little turned around with some of these things that we're going over today. Okay, let's move forward. Let's talk about all the NLTK pieces, and then we'll talk about what's below it. First, we are tokenizing the text. Tokenizing the text is important because without it, you can't do your next step. Performing part of speech tagging on the tokens, which we do cover in the previous video. So if you wanted to dig a little deeper, check out the part of speech NLP video. Identify named entities in the text. This is when you're doing the actual NE chunk, and then we extract the name entities from the chunk text. And if you're familiar with Python, you've probably seen this before. Count the occurrences of each named entity. Now, this is important. I don't want just a list of every single time a word or entity is being used, because what we're doing is we're parsing our website. And on a website, if you use a word more than once, you're telling a robot that you are essentially building a wiki of knowledge about those terms. And if you're not using those terms over and over, then the robots really won't know what to rank you for on the internet. In this area, we're creating data frames, and that allows us to then sort them. And below that, we have a variable of max 10 rows. Let's talk about why that's important. We are outputting a CSV. Now that isn't relative to the max 10 because I just want to see everything in the CSV output. But as far as printing goes, it's important to know how to limit the data. So you know that we've done the counting of occurrences of entities, which is happening here. And then we're doing our sort. And that allows us then to take just the top 10 rows based off that sort. Below that, we're including different POS tags because we want to analyze a little bit more than the previous video. So we're adding more tags. Below this, we are filtering based off that list of values. So we're only going to get the part of speech that we care about today. Below that, we are doing a count of the filter tokens. And again, just like the named entity portion, we want to do a count of the amount of times these terms, these words like team, help, have, visualization, I want to count them every single time it happens. Mostly because I might start taking my page here and saying, you know, team isn't working for me. Maybe I need to push those words around and use different words for the word team. Same thing with help, same thing with visualization. Maybe I don't want to rank for visualization on this particular page. This is important because I have another page that wants to rank for visualization. I do not want these pages to compete with themselves. That's why the part of speech and the entity is important to analyzing your parsed web pages if you're trying to improve the SEO value, which would increase the organic searches. Then let's talk about what we do with our part of speech. And it's very similar to the code above. Again, we're making the data frame. We're sorting the data frame. Then we're using the max rows to print so we can see that it's happening. And then again, we're outputting a CSV. Now, the reason I like to output the CSV is because I would like to analyze where it started from. And then when I'm done changing the web page based off of what I saw from that CSV, I can create another CSV and then compare them to each other. And I would like you to try to do that and see if you can increase the value of your website using this app. Thanks.